Good evening and welcome back to round two with Zachary Clevenger. I'm going to just double check the feed real quick to make sure that we are indeed live and in the right place. And it looks like we are, so yay! Technology is working the way that it's supposed to.
Great.
It's always nerve-wracking when I don't have another staff person to do some of the tech stuff behind the camera, but we wanted to really limit the number of people in the studio this evening. So I'm really excited that technology seems to be working. Same format for all of the candidates that we will be interviewing over tonight, tomorrow night, and next Monday and Tuesday. It'll be a brief introduction, 3 minutes or so of the candidates' opening statements, and then 5 questions with about 2 minutes to answer. If you're in the middle of an answer, I'll let you continue and finish that thought. I think it's important that we be able to have complete thoughts expressed to the people that are out there that are going to be making the decisions on who they're going to be voting for in North Kansas City. So we're trying to keep it around 2 minutes, but if you go a little over, Zach, it's going to be okay.
Okay.
So without further ado, let me get started with the introduction because we are by my clock now at 8:01, so we're good to go. Wanted to fill a little bit of time in case people set their watch to be right there at 8 o'clock. Zachary Clevenger is with us this evening. He was born and raised in the Blue Springs, Lee Summit area, attended Drury University in Springfield, Missouri, and that's where you earned your Bachelor's of Arts degree in Spanish and Business Administration.
Mm-hmm.
Your full-time job is a benefit authorizer for the Social Security Administration.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
How long have you been there?
I have been there 12 years.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
You have been married 17 years to Elba.
Yes.
And a resident of North Kansas City for 20 years.
Correct.
You've served on the City Council for 6 years. And before that, you served 2 years on the North Kansas City Library Board.
Correct.
You pride yourself on engaging residents, listening to their concerns and suggestions, and taking action. You have a weekly email that you send out to constituents that are on your list and let them know what's going on at City Hall to keep them informed. If you would like to be added to that list, you can email him at zclevenger@nkc.org. And
We'll definitely get you on the list.
exactly. You've accomplished many projects in North Kansas City, and there's many more in the works. You've promoted new development at 1 North, which is a mixed-use retail, residential, restaurant district. You have plans to develop a super block with more residential. And that super block is 23rd to 26th and Swift.
In Swift, correct. That big patch of big green lot there at 23rd to 26th
Okay.
and Swift. Mm-hmm.
You're in the process of having the water plant rehabilitated with no increase in water bills to
That's
the
correct.
residents.
Right.
And
We've actually lowered water rates from the water fund. We've been able to do that. So.
okay. So I might have just jumped right into your opening arguments.
That's okay.
So I will turn it over to Zach for his opening comments. Did I say opening arguments? That's in a.
I'm not an attorney.
That's in a
I
courtroom.
just play one on TV.
So for opening comments, about 3 minutes or so, and this is where you get to tell people a little bit about you and your hopes and dreams and what you feel you've accomplished and what you think North Kansas City is all about.
Okay, well here goes. We've covered some of it. Mindy, first of all, thanks for the opportunity to be here. I think this is a great platform. We're going to get into later on the city talking how we can communicate with residents. I think this is a great avenue right here of how we're communicating with residents. So yeah, I've lived in North Kansas City for 20 years. I first came here and I lived in the Northland Lofts before it turned to the Park Lofts on Armour Road. And lived there for about 8 years and then purchased a house on 24th Avenue. And I'm on the 1000 block of 24th Avenue and lived there for about 12 years. I love the community. I mean, North Kansas City is my home now. For me, being visually impaired, I don't drive, but the great thing about North Kansas City is it's walkable. You've got many things that you can go to and within walking distance or biking distance or what have you, scooter distance. It's a great community. Great people. It was known, and I think it's always known as friendly Northtown. I think we've got a great mix of businesses. We've got a great residential. We've got great potential over in the avenues, where I am the council person. I try to engage my residents as much as I can. Like Mindy mentioned, I've got the weekly email list that I send out to my residents. Send them an email letting them know what's going on at City Hall and kind of the issues that are going to be coming up on the council meeting. So if you would like to be on the list, then definitely give me a shout out at zclevenger@nkc.org. I'll get you on the list. I've got most people from Ward 3. I've got a few people from other wards too that are on there that just want to be on there. So if you want to be on there, that's fine. I don't want to tread on any other council person's territory, but we certainly would love to have you. You know, we've done a lot of great things. We're trying to get into One North and get more development in there. We're trying to, you know, keep and revitalize our downtown, trying to repurpose some of the warehouses that are in the industrial district, and we've still got a lot of industrial customers and owners that are here that provide a lot of, like what Rita said, a lot of people for our businesses that are here. We have a great entertainment, restaurant, breweries, so we've got a nice little niche here in North Kansas City. The reason why I'm wanting to run for City Council for another term, I'll get into it a little bit later, but I'm involved with the National League of Cities. It's a group of communities at the national level that advocate for issues and funding at their local level. One of the committees that I'm on is the Affordable Housing and Economic Development Subcommittee. And so we're going to get into to affordable housing here real quick. And I want to continue that. I want to try to continue to make North Kansas City a great place. I want us to be mindful of our history. We've got great history in North Kansas City. And I want us to be progressive as well, but we need to do it in a smart manner. And so how are we on time? Is that good?
You did it perfectly timed. Excellent. Zach, thank you for being willing to be here on this first night. I know it's a little bit nerve-wracking, and
I watched Reed at least. So.
It did, and we are so grateful to have the technology that we have today to be able to really give you an opportunity as candidates to reach the community. Given the situation in our world right now with COVID-19 and social distancing and all that, it's just great that we have the technology, because without it, gosh, you guys have been doing a lot of mailing, and that gets expensive.
Either mailing, well, for me, I was walking the neighborhood. Now, I had my mask and my gloves on, but yeah, I was walking the neighborhood the last few days, putting out door hangers. Didn't really want to knock on a lot of doors because of the COVID-19 situation. And, you know, I don't know how people will, I want to be safe. We all want to be safe. So, but yeah, I got my exercise this weekend, so.
Good for you. So question number 1, let me adjust my timer. There we go. How will you work to promote diversity in our community?
Well, North Kansas City is a very diverse community. You look at the high school, they've got over, I don't know how many languages, but many languages that are spoken there at that high school. You have people that live here that are from diverse backgrounds and cultures. I think one way you can do that is boards and commissions. For example, you know, we've got a library board, parks and recreation, planning and zoning, many different boards that are listed on the city's website. So I would encourage residents that if they're interested to fill out the form. You can get the form online. You can submit it online, I believe. I don't think you have to take it to City Hall. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But you fill out the form. You know, we're always looking to fill positions in the boards and commissions. So I think that's one important thing, is that how we can promote diversity. Also recruiting, police and fire, city staff, administrative, what have you. If we can find good candidates that are, you know, of minority or, you know, different culture, what have you, then certainly that's another key point. But I think the big thing is the boards and commissions, and also those citizens getting involved in the community and letting us know, you know, their concerns, their needs, what they would like to see, their hopes and dreams. Because that's what we are, is we're the residents' voice at City Hall. We're supposed to basically represent them and let City Hall know kind of what their needs are. An example of that is kind of what's going on in the avenues right now. And I won't get into it all right now because we're still trying to collect some data, but, you know, speeding in the avenues. Obviously, you know, the residents think it's a problem. I live on 24th. maybe not quite the issue that it is on 21st and 22nd if they're getting off Armour Road or they're coming through the straight street, because 24th is not a straight street. It's 24th Avenue. So it's something that, hey, it's an issue. It was brought to our attention. Let's get some data. Let's look at it, and let's see if we can get a resolution that works for residents.
Okay. Diversity, obviously you are bilingual and
Fluent in Spanish and English, yeah.
and so diversity is important to you as well. How will you balance the needs between the residents and what they need and their wants, and the business community and their needs and their wants?
Great question. Very tough question. Very great question. There is a balance. You've got to have a balance. You've got to walk a line. Now, first of all, my commitment is to the residents, because they are the ones that are electing you to the office. They're the ones that are giving their faith in you and their trust in you to get into the office and do what, do what's right for the residents and represent them well. Now, granted, you've got to look at the other side as well, that businesses are here. They pay a lot of our tax base, okay? So we also have to they have a voice with the North Kansas City Business Council, and we also need to listen to them as well. My thing is a compromise. I mean, I think you can balance the two. I like what Rita said, because, I mean, it's true. We've got our businesses and our industrial on the south side and most residential on the north side. We're starting to change that now. But, again, it's a fine line. You've got to balance it both, but you always have to keep in mind that the residents are the ones that put you where you're at. You have to represent them. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I can vote every way that they want. Can't please everybody. I mean, it's just not possible. But I will do the best I can. I'm going to try to make solutions that can work for everyone. If one person wants, one group wants this, one group wants that, if you can meet in the middle and each group got a little something of what they wanted, but everything's not one way or the other, then I think you've done a good job. So it's just a balance, and again, I will first of all get the inputs of my residents. So.
Okay. How can the city better communicate with the residents, the businesses, and the consumers that come to North Kansas City?
Okay. Well, I think there's several different things. First of all, I think the city does a pretty good job in communicating. At least we have multiple avenues. First of all, we have the quarterly report, the Northtown Connection. We have the North Kansas City Neighbors site now on Facebook. That's another medium. For me, I use the email list that I use for my residents. I also, for the residents that aren't on email or on a computer, yearly I do like a yearly review, and I'll walk that around the neighborhood and put that on people's doors. I think that's the main thing. Of course, issues pop up during the year, and I think if it's a hot button issue, if it's a big issue that we anticipate may have a lot of feedback, then I think we could send a letter to the residents saying, this is what we're looking at doing. We're have a meeting about it at such and such a time. Here's the plan. You can go on the city website and give your feedback. You can write a letter, what have you. I think that's something that we should do, and that's the great thing that we did with like Armour Road. We had that public meeting so that people could talk about it and we could get some ideas out there. I know that we were going to have a meeting on it again, but COVID kind of delayed it, so it's down the road in August. But I think as far as communication, I try to communicate. I'm going to be honest, I'm no Facebook expert, but I try to get on there and get the questions answered. If anybody wants to give me an extra tutelage on how to use Facebook, I'll be open to that. That's for sure. But as a city as a whole, I think sending out the letter on the big issues, the citizen survey was great. I think that's a good start. The connection, just trying to engage in all the avenues possible.
All right, communication. With it, we have a chance. Without it,
we have nothing.
It makes life a little bit more difficult. Mm-hmm. What is your position on the streetcar expansion to North Kansas City?
Well, certainly, I mean, I want to be open to all items that are coming our way. And the streetcar, I don't know that it's going to, with the COVID-19 and what's going on now, I don't know that it's going to be imminent, but I'm not going to be opposed to the streetcar coming up here. Now, we have to look at the funding mechanism of how that's taken care of if it does come up here. You know, right now there hasn't been any discussions. I know that they were going to expand the streetcar further south. They haven't spoken about coming up north, but I'm not willing to close that off and say, oh, we don't want the streetcar or anything. I mean, I see what the development has done downtown. So yeah, I mean, being open to that and looking, we've got to look at a funding mechanism on it as well, though. So, but yeah.
Okay. That was in 1 minute.
That was pretty, I mean, I don't know what else, there's not a lot going on right now, so we haven't had any discussions that I'm aware of.
And to be fair, some of these questions came in before COVID-19,
Before COVID-19.
And these all came from residents of North Kansas City.
Well, me being if I've got an extra little bit of time, then me being a person that doesn't drive, you know, I try to use public transportation, and the streetcar is great. I mean, when I was in Washington, D.C. with, you know, at conference, using the subway, it's great. I mean, it's just such a great way of transportation, public transportation, and if you can make it accessible and convenient for people, then I think you'll get more of those people using public transit.
I agree. What is your position on affordable housing in North Kansas City, including single-family dwellings and apartments?
Okay, well, my ears perked up when I saw this question. So with the National League of Cities, and I'm also involved in the Missouri Municipal League, which is at the state level, communities advocating at the state legislature for their city. But at the National League of Cities, there's a committee for the Economic Development and Affordable Housing Subcommittee. That's one of my, I have a soft spot in my heart for affordable housing because, you know, rents are very expensive. And we have, you know, different apartments coming on that are going to be luxury apartments. But some of the affordable housing in North Kansas City has kind of dissipated. We haven't had a lot of affordable housing recently. Affordable housing doesn't mean that you're just getting low-income people here. You may have, you know, a single mom with a couple of kids that has a decent job, but I mean, the bills pile up. I mean, you need something affordable. When they were looking at the Clay County Economic Development Council, I believe, gave us a presentation about a year ago, and they were saying that if you use more than 30% of your income towards your rent, that's not really affordable housing. We do have a project coming up. We're trying to work out with the gallery lofts at, I'm not sure the exact address, but it's between Tay's Burger Shack and the YMCA. They're on the south side of Armour. Those are going to be affordable housing units. And we worked with the Missouri Division of Housing Credits. We actually went to some of their meetings and testified as council members in support of the project. That's going to bring affordable housing to North Kansas City. That's something that I was instrumental on. Myself and Councilmember DeLong also went there to speak in favor of it. And so I think that's a great project. You know, we definitely want to have some of our units as affordable housing. So that's very near and dear to my heart. And you know, I think that project right there will bring extra, and if we can add extra affordable housing, then I think that would be great as well. We're going to have a nice mix, affordable housing, luxury apartments. We've got the townhomes that are extra townhomes that are being built. So my time's up.
That's okay. So now we'll move into the Q&A from the viewers.
That was 5 questions?
That was 5
Wow.
questions. I know, I'm fast.
I hope I didn't breeze through those.
You did good. So what can our city do to build relationships with neighboring communities?
Well, I think networking is one major thing. Networking, being involved in the Missouri Municipal League, being involved in the National League of Cities, networking, seeing what other cities are doing, finding out what's worked, what's not worked, making those connections. Also, you know, at local level, being involved with like Gladstone, Kansas City, Riverside, you know, those issues, making those connections, because they're your surrounding neighbors. Like you said, we're the island here, surrounded by Kansas City, Riverside, Gladstone. So we've got to make those connections. We got to keep those connections. I think the city does a pretty good job on that. I mean, we as council members, city staff participates in those discussions and meetings. Clay County Economic Development Council, we're part of that. North Kansas City Business Council, attending their events, I think is also important, so.
So before I ask the next question, this is an opportunity for anybody who's viewing that has a question for Zach to answer and get his position on an issue that might be important to you. This is the time to ask that question. You've got a little bit of time in the Q&A portion to do that, so feel free to put those into the comment section. I'll check them here, and then before we wrap up the Q&A section, I'll double check the camera just to see make sure that everybody's questions got into both places. So this is, I think it's a question that everybody is curious about. What is your stance on Armour Road?
Well, Armour Road, the Complete Street project, you know, we made the changes. At first, some of the changes weren't exactly what we wanted. You know, with the parallel parking in front of the post office, we found that that was an issue. So we changed it, modified it to diagonal parking. Me being, you know, a pedestrian, I don't really ride a bike, probably for good reason. But, you know, I like the islands in the middle for crossing. And, you know, the cyclists, I want Armour Road to be seen not just about cyclists, but about a complete street altogether. You know, is it perfect? Maybe not. I'll be honest, I don't want to rip it all out. I'll just be honest about that. I don't want to rip it all out, but you know, I would be open for some kind of modifications. But I think our complete street, making it safe for pedestrians, cyclists, is important. You know, and some of those changes that were made, like the islands, like the crosswalks, those are important. You know, slowing it down a little bit, trying to extend our downtown a little bit further makes it important. We need, you know, with the traffic study hadn't been completed yet. We kind of put that on hold with the COVID-19 because you really can't get accurate results. But we need to look at that traffic study, and we need to look at possible modifications if we need to. But really, we need to look at the data before we make the final decision, and that decision is going to be in August of 2020. But you know, as far as a complete street, I think that that's important, especially for people like myself, people that are disabled, people that are elderly, but we need to do it in a smart manner. So, to be continued.
To be continued. What is your stance on having a requirement in city administration being a resident of North Kansas City?
Like for staff being a resident of North Kansas City?
Strategic staff.
Strategic. So what do you mean by strategic?
That was my word that I inserted into the question, but the question reads as follows. What is your stance on having a requirement in city administration being a resident of North Kansas City?
Well, in principle, that's a great idea, because the staff that live here, the staff that work here would have to live here. Now, I don't know if it's feasible here in North Kansas City. First of all, as a city, we want to get the best and brightest in staff to be here. We don't have a lot of housing stock. And like Rita said, you know, a house goes for sale, it's sold before the realtor gets a sign in the yard. So, I mean, in principle, it's a great idea, but I just don't think it's feasible. I just, you know, we've got a bunch of employees, and trying to find housing for all of them, if they've got a big family, it's just so difficult. I mean, it's a great idea in principle, but I don't see if it's feasible.
Okay.
I'm sorry if that hurts somebody's feelings. But.
We have time for just a couple more questions. If somebody has any questions that they want to, that would be a good time to put that into the comment section, and we will get it asked. What has been your biggest accomplishment that you were a part of as a current council person?
Well, there's a couple of things. I mean, first of all, I think the email blast that I send out, when I started it, I don't know that any other council member except for Bill Sanders, when he was over in Ward 2, was doing that. Actually got the idea from Bill Sanders. So, I mean, I think that's a great accomplishment, keeping people up to date on the issues. I think another thing is Dag Park. Dag Park is a great accomplishment where we revamped Dag Park. I know some people miss the wading pool, but I mean, the spray park is just fantastic. I know it can't be open now because of COVID, but I mean, I think that was a great amendment. It brings a lot of people to North Kansas City, and hopefully after they're here, they play in the spray park, and then they'll go get something to eat at a restaurant, or go get some gas, or go to a movie at Screenland Armour. You know, that's great. I think that's a big accomplishment. And the other thing is, you know, these gallery lofts, that hasn't happened yet, but we're working to make it happen for the affordable housing, to bring some more affordable housing, and to get some residential on the south side of Armour Road. That's going to be in my ward, and our ward, I should say, not my ward, but our ward, and I think that's going to be a great addition. The rabbit hole coming to North Kansas City, I think, is another great addition. A lot of this stuff has just been happening just because of our great location and our friendly business attitude. You know, we can work with business, we take care of our residents. So,
What's been your biggest challenge?
biggest challenge, I think, is well, it's making the tough decisions. I mean, some of these decisions have been really tough, especially when to open up the city. My biggest challenge is, you know, communication. I think I try to have every avenue of communication. I think I'm Facebook challenged a little bit, so I'm going to try to work on that. That's a great avenue. And I think just, you know, I think one of my challenges is that I care so much about the community. I care so much about the ward that when somebody, like if we have a problem that a residents bring to my attention, and maybe staff doesn't think it's a problem, it's just, you know, maintaining professionality and getting in there and finding solutions, getting with staff and say, you know, this is an issue, let's try to find some solutions. And that doesn't happen very often. So I'm not calling staff out. We got great staff. You know, we got great city administrator, Kim Nakahoto, and assistant city administrator. She is awesome. So we just, I think that's one of my challenges, is just, you know, caring too much and trying to channel that in the right way. Does that make sense?
It does. So with that, I'm going to give you an opportunity to give your closing statement and let people know anything that we haven't talked about or what you want to reiterate so that people know why they should vote for you on June 2nd.
Okay. Well, I may not be the most polished speaker, but what you see is what you get from me. I mean, I'm going to be honest. If I don't have the answer, I'm going to tell you I don't have the answer. I'm going to try to find the answer for you. Again, I will definitely represent you in North Kansas City, in our ward. You know, I've prided myself on being a good communicator. I think I've done a good job on that. Walk in the neighborhood at least a couple times a year. The email blast, getting on Facebook now and seeing the issues and the people maybe that don't really look at email but are on Facebook. So, you know, I want to continue that. I want to continue my work with the Missouri Municipal League and the National League of Cities to promote North Kansas City, and I want to benefit this city. The city, I want to bring it forward. I want to remember our history and cherish our history, but I also want to be progressive and move us forward in the right direction. And we want to have, we're going to be, I think, you know, the city has heard communication. That's a big key, and I think the city is working on that. I think we've done a pretty good job, and there's room for improvement in everything. So if you vote for me, again, the election is June 2nd. You can vote, as Mindy said, by absentee ballot. You have to have that request in by the 20th. So I would appreciate your vote. You know, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be straightforward with you. I'm going to be, I will respond. If you send me something, I'm going to respond to it and get you the answer, whether it be the one you want to hear or the one you don't want to hear. So I just encourage everyone to get out and vote. I also want to echo Rita Pierce's comments on Anessa DeLong for school board. I think she'd be a great candidate, and I plan on voting for her. So.
Thank you, Zach. And we've had Dave Wood says thank you for your service to our city. So I wanted to pass that along. But
No hecklers?
No hecklers. No hecklers. That's a good thing.
Okay, great.
Well, and that's what I love about our city is this is an opportunity, no matter what side of an issue that you're on, this is your opportunity to speak directly to the people with no filters, no, you don't have to worry. This is a safe place. Mm-hmm. And so thank you for joining us tonight, Zach, on the first night of our candidate forum virtually. As Zach said, and what we've talked about all evening is the election is June 2nd. There is time to get in your request for an absentee ballot. They will accept any reason really that you're giving for the absentee ballot due to COVID-19. So as long as it's in by Wednesday at 5 p.m., you will get your absentee ballot and be able to vote, because your voice matters, our city matters, and we want everyone's voice to be heard. And that's really why we're doing this forum, to make sure that you have every opportunity to get to know the candidates, regardless of canvassing and door-to-door visits and mailers and flyers that get put out. We know that with COVID-19 that there's a lot of things that candidates would normally do that they are not able to do this year. And so we wanted to make sure that you got an opportunity to get the most information that you can. If you want to reach Zach, you can reach him at zclevenger@nkc.org. And
My cell phone's on the website as well if you need to call.
And he does answer. That's one thing I can say about both of the candidates that I've talked to this evening is they both answer their phone, they both answer emails, and they both care. So I'm looking forward to meeting the other candidates tomorrow evening, as well as next week. And let me look at the schedule. It looks like tomorrow evening will be Denise. And I don't have in front of me what ward she is in. She's in Ward 4?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Zach. We'll have her at 8 p.m. So I won't see you at 7 p.m. I do want to reiterate that all candidates have been asked to participate in this virtual forum. We have 2 that we have not heard from that want to, that have been invited but have not replied. So there is still space for them, but everybody that has responded is scheduled to speak to you. And we invite you to come back tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. And then on Memorial Day, we will have Amy Clark at 8 p.m. as well.
Ward 4.
And she's Ward 4, thank you. Ron Knight will be at 7 p.m. on the 26th.
Ward 2.
Ward 2. And Lisa Tull, I think I said her name right, will be at 8 p.m. on the 26th. And then Tony,
Ward 2.
and Tony Saper, right?
Tony Saper is Ward 1 and Lisa Toll is
Okay,
Ward 2.
just making sure I got the names right.
Saper, yes.
So that's our lineup. There's a graphic on Facebook that you can check out if you want to know specific when your candidate for your ward is going to be interviewed. They may be either here in the studio in person, or we may do them virtually depending on the comfort level and the status of each candidate. But we are going to use technology and we're going to let you get to know them. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you. And I'm just going to check Facebook one more time, just make sure we haven't missed anybody.
Wow, no question.
Just a couple questions, and you answered them both
Okay,
off
great.
the cuff. We're done.
Thank you for tuning in, everybody.
Have a good evening, Zach. Thank you.
Thank you, Mindy.
All right, see you tomorrow.